Tramsim, Vienna and Munich are now out on console in Standard Edition, which gets you both regions or cities, and Deluxe Edition, which also gets you the Vienna Depot and the low-floor tram. Your menu is guided with New Game, Load Game, the vehicles that you've got access to. So there's the Flexity, the E2 and C5, which is a powered tram and an unpowered car behind it. The ultra low floor Type A, you only get this in Deluxe. The ultra low floor Type A1, which is just a later version of the same thing. The Type B, which is a longer one. The B1, also a longer one, the second version of it. The one for Munich, the R2.2B, it's almost a droid, almost. And back to the Flexity. On the tutorials front, there are a few. So you've got some basic informational things about each of the trams that you can scroll through, how things work and the like. And excuse the person coming down the stairs. You also have some driving tutorials. So there's the Flexity and the Munich R2B. There's also a tutorial on the tram signaling, so explaining to you what the various lights and signs and things mean. And there's a tutorial on gameplay, which you learn the gameplay features and where your points come from and the like. These tutorials are all quite simple, and they do only cover the basic information. They are enough to get started in the game. They're probably not enough to do really well. And there are some things that are quite confusing, like wheelchair ramps and things like that. They're different in every tram. Some of them you can just click on them to open them. Some of them you've got to use buttons, and some of them you've got to use a D-pad menu. Now, before we get any further, there's one thing in this early access version that is so not early access that this is the version for sure, probably. There's a little bit of an issue. To do things, you have to interact with stuff. To interact with stuff, you need to plug in a mouse. You don't use the mouse for anything. In fact, you can't. It's totally useless. But if you haven't got it plugged in, you can't actually interact with switches and doors and stuff like that, which is bum. But anyway, I'll give you a demo of that shortly. So we've got our two driving tutorials for each of the main cities. And you've got your profile settings for where you're up to and what you've done. I haven't gone very far in this one at all, funnily enough, because I used to play it on PC. The setups to tell you how to use the controller are relatively good. I find these are fairly useful, and you can of course get to this while you're playing. Set up for graphics, so you can increase your field of view if you want to. I find that this is fairly adequate. You can change the brightness, you can change whether the trams are weathered or not. You can set your audio. One thing that is very important, you'll notice that the tunnel audio, and I'm actually going to turn it down a bit more, so I've just come down with my left stick. The tunnel audio is ridiculously loud. So I would suggest to you that you do in fact change it. You've got your other usual sorts of settings for camera inversion, head movement and the like. Traction back lever control, you want that on. The emergency brake via the stick, don't turn this on, or you'll end up going into emergency all the time. Just leave it alone. And there's the things about points and warnings and level ups and profiles and things like that. Being able to open the manual, not sure why that's turned off. Let's just turn that on. Oops. I think I just accidentally exited from settings. Oops. I did. Let's just turn this back on. I don't actually know why it's off. Right. Now let's save that. And you have the various languages that you can play in. Being able to open the manual is quite important, because in places where you're allowed to, you can just use the manual and help find out what you need to find. So let's just quickly jump into a simple drive, and we'll do a quick one. So it's A to select the menu. Now I'm going to plug in my device because I'm going to need it. Now when you're choosing, if I can get this into the Xbox one-handed, I can't. Alright, anyway, it's plugged in. Choose your region first. So it's Vienna or Munich. You can go open world, which means you can just drive around wherever you want. You can change onto other trams if you feel like it. Timetable mode, you're following a shift, and this actually is a little bit stressful, to be honest with you. So if you like that kind of thing, jump right into it. There are various scenarios, such as switch malfunction, where you get to go and do something, you have to deal with it and get around it. There's a shunting scenario, which you can do some tram washing and how to move them around and join them together and the like. Start of shift, which takes you up through the process of bringing a tram from the depot onto the tracks, including starting it up. You need to be a bit familiar with those pages that tell you how to do it. It's a bit of a pain in the bum, but if you like the cold start kind of thing, you go right ahead. Short tour. Due to a demonstration on the ring, there are regularities in line 1. In other words, you have to go somewhere else. You do a different route. Closing time, you take one back to the depot. No great surprise there. And if we go to the other city, we have simplified mode and advanced mode. So you can tell these are two different versions of the game that have been bunged together. And there's don't think there's any scenarios for Munich, I don't think. No. So there's a bunch of routes and things. Let's just, whoops, too far. Back to Vienna. Route 1, I'm just going to leave everything at the defaults. And we're going to go for a quick drive. So if you want to do a cold start, you do that. Reality is, because never a cold start on the road on a tram. I have actually been trained in tram driving, so I do kind of know. Let us start the game, and we'll just go for a very quick drive. I've got another tutorial which is a full run of Route 1 in Vienna, which tells you pretty much everything you need to know. It's an hour long, so I'm just cognizant of that, so I want to do a short drive here. And we'll do a separate set of videos about the tutorial as well. Alright, so we're in our Flexity tram. No one on board at the moment. So we're all good. So I will push my left stick forward to get us moving. And you may see under the speedo there, or next to the speedo, there's a yellow bar just lit up. If I push all the way forward, it'll go red. Let's get back off because we're going too fast in the corner. About 10 k's for corners, 10 to 15 for points. You can go faster in the less tight corners, but this is a very tight one. The controller will warn you if you're going too fast. It goes. I'm just going to take this one to the first stop and the second stop. I'll explain what I'm doing. As I'm going here to maintain my speed, I'm just gently poking the stick a little bit just to keep the speed going. When you want to stop, you pull it back, just gentle, because you want to keep your passengers comfortable. Alright, now this is our first stop coming up. On that red and white sign, you can see that there is a number 1, which means Route 1, which is what we're driving. So you're only supposed to stop at the ones that are for your route. And see this little H thing? We want to get that as close to 0 as we can. There we go. And B to open the front door, and X to release the rest of the doors. The other doors open as they're needed to, the passengers open them. Now we have a fella in a wheelchair out here. So on this tram it's actually relatively easy. You just interact with the floor. Now remember I told you you have to have a mouse plugged in? This is what you need it for. And he'll come flying in now. G'day mate, how you doing? And then you pop your ramp back up. Right stick pressing it changes the camera angles, which is how I got out there. Now we want to close the front door, which is B, and release the unlock on the back doors. Now you might have seen that down here I had a blue light here which told me that that was unreleased. And when that wheelchair fella wants to get out, there's a normal stop. Just try to put my cursor on it. There's a the wheelchair stop will light up, and the normal stop will light up for other people. Alright, pressing the left stick forward, hit a bell, which is the right bottom button, or right RT. So left stick. Actually, what we can do is in our D-pad menu, we have got a cruise control thing. So set that to 30, because that's what you're allowed to do on the street level. So I D-pad up and then cursor through it, and use A to select, B to get out of there. Standard sort of things for the Xbox. Alright, we can go full thing now. We've got a request for the next stop for both the disabled person and the not so disabled persons. Watch out for pedestrians, they jump out in front of you, so do the cars, there's the lumber. We're cruising through a park right now, we're about to do some street running. So I'm just going to take you to that next stop, and that'll be it for this run. And if you want to know more about driving this tram on Route 1, then you'll just have to watch the massively long one. I quite enjoy the game. It is very typical of trams, and you'll spend a lot of time at red lights. Get used to it. Alright, we're coming up to the street area now, so I'm just going to slow down in case of surprises. So I'm just pulling my stick back just a little bit. Pull back, let go, pull back, let go. There we go. Now I'll put my right indicator on. We'll look clear enough, no one's coming. Right indicator off. Now up in the wires up on our right hand side there, we can see 3 horizontal white dots, and X which warns us for the next signal, and that's telling us that these traffic lights are red, which shouldn't surprise you because of course they are. Now we've got to stop here, so we'll just keep going till the stop marker gets down near 0. There we go. Open our B for the front doors and X to release the lock on the others. And this guy wants to get out, so let's just interact with the panel. Of course, he's not going to wait for it or anything. Kind of handy. I pumped. Somehow I managed to get out of the chair. A for interacting with the panel somehow got me out of my chair. Anyway, let's just close this thing up. He never actually waits for you to finish that. B to shut the doors. I will in a moment anyway. Back into the cab. Let's release our lock on there. This will shut. No, they haven't yet. Oh, you know why? Because I didn't get that fully open. Let's just flick back to this camera again. Go fully open. And sometimes it's copying my activation of the fully open to put me in the other thing. Interact is buggy as, and it's done it again. Great. Now we'll be able to shut that door anyway, so B to close that when we sit down in the chair. Now we can do it. No, we can't. Oh, I know what's happened. It's because the disabled lock's on. Not that one. Come on, that one. Right, now we can do it. There we go. Yeah, the fact that he wanted to put a disabled lock on there. Alright, we've got 2 vertical bars. We can get out of here. Bit of bell and off we go. And that's about as far as I'm going to take it on this one. So, watch the long one. It is an hour. Just got all of these lights are changing, so I am going to stop. A real tram driver would probably go straight through them, but that's fine. That never happens. Alright, if you want to watch the other one, it's a full hour. It's a full tour of Route 1. I do recommend that you do that. I know it's quite a long one, or you can just try and drive it yourself, but either way, I'd have a go at watching it if I were you. So, I'll do a couple more videos, one for each of the tutorial run-throughs as well. So, see you later. Bye.